I am Rick Moreno, and thank you very much for tuning in and wanting to learn. And if you haven't yet, become part of the family. Hit the subscribe button and share to everyone who is interested in learning about real estate investment altogether. The idea of real estate investment is really an intuitive and creative option to develop long-term sustainable wealth. And today we are actually here in one of my investment properties that we just finished up. It's really a really great job that we did here. We call it Casita Moreno. I got here my two main men. I got Isaac Moreno, my brother, who has been with me along the ride on a lot of my investment properties. Say hello, Isaac.
What's going on, guys?
And I got Martin Cáceres, who was my project manager for this particular property. Martin, overall, what did you think about how this product turned out?
Honestly, I mean, you did a great job. You chose everything. I was just here project managing.
That's it.
So these guys today have some questions that they wanted to ask me. We wanted to break down and give you a great understanding of what it's like to purchase real estate property, whether it be through a flip or what my preference now, just because I'm getting older, I like long-term wealth. I like to acquire passive income and do all the work on the front end and then turn away and develop that passive rental flow along the way. So what do you have, man? What's going on? What are some of the things that you want to share with us or the audience?
I guess throughout this whole process, I guess I was just wondering, with all the new construction going on in this city, why did you decide to go central and downtown?
Completely, just a good question overall, but for those people who don't know what market we're in El Paso, Texas, and El Paso is really booming when it comes to new construction. The far east side of town, Horizon part of town, which is further east of downtown, has been experiencing exponential growth when it comes to bars, restaurants, shops, and especially new construction. For me, living in New York City and also LA, I realized that that space is, though it's good, it's from the buyer perspective, maybe he's going to get a really nice new home, and of course the builder perspective and restaurants and shops and bars, it's not long-term sustainable. Eventually, I think the market has corrected itself or is correcting itself, and so that's not where I'm going to make a lot of my money as an investor. The reason why is it would be stupid for me to go into that space over there in new construction and buy expensive. And we're going to teach you right now the number one rule that I teach you guys, and you guys already know by heart, is you don't make your money on the sale, you make your money on the purchase, right? And so that's why for me, I wanted to go to a place that was popping in regards to renovation. And I like the old, I like the traditional, where I can really renovate and make it look something completely pretty. This place was a dump.
Yeah.
Right, you guys saw it. And central and downtown for me is, especially since I'm going into the Airbnb space heavily, you want to be close to those activities, Marty. When you go travel with your family, you don't want to be on the outskirts unless you're going into, like, you know, some type of outdoor activity that's
the country.
The country, right? But like, you recently traveled to, where did you go? Phoenix?
We went to Phoenix.
And you try to stay near where the activity was, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So that for me is my focus, guys. When I'm looking at a property, I don't want to be too far from a Lowe's or Home Depot, so that way I have access for renovation and materials and whatnot. But I also want to be close to downtown restaurants, bar shops, universities, as well as a great target place for me. So that's why for me, that's completely taking me out of the picture when I'm looking at the farther zip codes like East Side, Far East Side, and especially Horizon in El Paso. It's gonna take me a long time to get there. And even though there's a lot of new restaurants, shops, and bars, I'm still buying at an expensive price. New construction is at the top tier of pricing, and I'm not gonna make any money. The margins or the spread as an investor is not wise for me. So that's why I try to stay away from that when it comes to investing heavily. Okay.
Rick, so why did you decide to put a lot of money into this property? It looks super dope, awesome. You put all the bells and whistles in this property, and if you don't mind me asking, did you spend a lot of money?
Well,
I would know.
This guy's the guy you got to ask. This guy's the guy you got to ask. Him and I got into a couple like pulling of the hair moments. I definitely spent too much money on this, but that's the beauty about this, guys. Going into the show, and I'm going to break down this specific property as an example of what you can do and what you shouldn't do. The reason why I was able to put the bells and whistles is because I worked from the end goal in mind, and I went backwards. And so what I mean by that is I knew that I bought it so inexpensive that I wanted to make this a really nice Airbnb space. I didn't want to make it just a traditional slap a futon together and put some random bachelor artwork there and then call it a space. I wanted the people to walk in and feel like, wow, this is just an eclectic, cool, artsy kind of place. And I knew that if I put my touch or our touch, professional photography behind it, video behind it, then I knew that I was just gonna take this through the roof. So to walk us through, I'll walk a little bit about the purchase. I purchased this as an off-market property. It didn't even hit the MLS, guys. It was a probate lead that I had acquired, and I got it for $30,000, just around 1,000 square feet. I got it dirt cheap. It did not look like this. It was completely messed up. It had cast iron piping, completely messed. So I gave you and Isaac a problem on this particular first one, right? As a broker, I gave you a really good project to look at. I give you my vision and you guys ran with it. How much more or less do you remember that I spent on this property?
I'll say between 35 and 40, around there.
Okay, so let's say low end. Let's say I spent $30,000 on the purchase, $35,000 on the renovation. So then I'm in it $65,000. This home now, as it's standing, is worth $125,000. Okay, so at $125,000, where a lot of investors go wrong, especially the investors that we help in, they just look at the common numbers. The common numbers are, what did they purchase it for, right? What are my renovation costs? What can I sell it for? And that's it. If they have a holding cost because of a debt service or a loan, then they factor that in there. But they don't factor the ins and outs of what a true realtor perspective is, in the title fees, transfers, closing costs, commissions on the front and commissions on the back end. And that's the beauty as a broker, as a realtor. I don't have to pay myself a commission when I purchased it. I purchased it without anyone involved. There was no listing agent. There was no buying agent. There was $0 commission. And that's the beauty about buying property that is off market. Not to say that we can't buy property on market. We have a couple things in the works that are on the MLS. But for going back at $125,000, if I put anywhere from 3% for the buyer's agent when I'm selling it, if I do decide to sell it, 3% towards the buyer's agent. And then in our market, it's different than every other market, but El Paso, we overgive on closing costs towards the buyer, right? How much is the traditional amount here?
3%.
3%, right? It's very unfortunate because in New Mexico, Arizona, and California, buyers pay for their closing costs, sellers pay for their closing costs. But in this particular market, I, as an investor, should factor in that 3% towards closing costs. So 3% for my buyer's agent, 3% for closing costs, and then maybe anywhere from 1.5% to 2.5% closing costs for me as a seller, so that I'm in it 8.5%. That's probably like around $10,000 or so in overall transfer, title fees, and closing cost fees. So $125,000 minus $10,000 and change. My videographer is going to put all the numbers on the side. After I subtract the purchase price of $30,000 and subtract the renovation of $35,000, I'm more. If I decide to sell it, I will have a phenomenal flip for such a small property, right? It would be like a $44,000 to $46,000 net profit.
Yeah.
That is a slam dunk in today's market, where the market is kind of cooled a little bit, right? So that's why I put the bells and whistles. I could make mistakes. We made a couple of mistakes, right?
Oh, yeah.
We made a couple of mistakes in this, but I can make those mistakes because we bought it so low. Now the problem is, if you buy so expensive, what happens? You
I mean,
Especially
there
with
wouldn't be
lending,
anything
right?
there.
Absolutely, especially with lending. So I did it all cash. There was no debt service or lending on this one. So
Okay. So I know that obviously you did this for Airbnb, renting it out. But long term, what is the actual goal for this property?
it's a good question. So people may ask, like, if I bought it so inexpensive and it made it look so nice and it's valued at an exponential price compared to what I bought it for, and the gross net profit is in the $40,000, that's great for me to flip. Mm-hmm. But my goal, my focus has shifted. I'm not in my 20s anymore. I'm gonna be 40. So I want to develop long-term sustainable wealth, right? So for me, I know that if I rent this out, it's under 1,000 square feet. This home, how much would this home rent for, you think? If I rent it out,
$700, $900.
$700. Okay, $700. It's a 3-bedroom, 1-bath. $700, right?
800.
Yeah, let's just say $700. Well, at $700, that I would rather flip it. It's just going to take me too much time, right?
Okay.
So for me, that's why I went into the Airbnb space. It's close to my office, centrally located, and I'm going to be renting this out at $85 a night during the weekend. We just launched it, and it's already booked all the way until October, the middle of October. And on the weekends, I'm going to fluctuate. I'm going to increase the price to maybe 95, maybe an event at the Sun Bowl or downtown or a baseball game, right? I'm going to fluctuate that. So let's say I'm averaging like $90 a night. At $90 a night times 20 days, that's the $1,800, right? That's with 10 days of vacancy, guys. We are sucking at 10 days of vacancy, and I'm safeguarding myself. And at 20 nights of occupancy, it still gives me that breathing room, right? At $1,800 a month, that's way more than the $700 of traditional 1 year lease. That's why I'm saying you guys are dropping a lot of money off. So that's probably, just doing raw numbers, that's probably anywhere from like 130 to 145% rate of return.
Yeah, sure.
There's nowhere in the market that you're going to get that. That's just by doing things creatively. So I'm hoping that makes sense.
Awesome. So me and you have done flips in Arizona and New Mexico, here in
we have
Texas.
some-
I've helped you a
some-
lot in other flips. What advice would you give for first-time investors as far as, I guess, the do's, the don'ts, maybe acquiring lending that, are having issues to trying to, get in the ball game and making sure they either flip or rent? What advice would you give to them?
I have like a hybrid approach. Some people that follow kind of like a Dave Ramsey. He believes in no debt, because of his spiritual background. He believes in no debt. I don't like debt either, but I have also have leveraged property the correct way by using debt and using other people's money. In this case, lenders are hard money lenders or private lenders, right? And so for me, early on, the struggle for an investor is not having any money. But here's what I've already taught you guys. If this was your property and someone was giving you this piece of crap property for $30,000, I best believe that you guys are going to go run the numbers and you will figure out a way to get $30,000. So people work backwards, Marty. They work like, I need $30,000 or the deal's going to fall apart. No, if you have a special prize, you're going to figure out a way to convince people, right? Convince people to get you those funds. So figure out a way. So for me is don't necessarily work so much on the funding. If you find the whale, if you find the deal, then the money should follow, right? The money should follow. So the traditional format, you could get a lender, right? A traditional mortgage company, an investment property would be, depending on the area that you're in, depending on the institution, what are we looking at? 20 to 25%, right? So let's say a property that's $100,000 or $200,000, $100,000, 20%, you're looking at $20,000, maybe some closing costs, so add another few $1,000s in there, and then whatever your renovation money is going to be. So let's say $15,000 to $25,000. So you're going to be in it $30,000 to $50,000, depending on the price point. But for this analogy, it's $30,000 to $50,000. So if you're a newbie investor, you got to have $50,000 of liquid capital ready so that you can jump into this space. And then when you do your first flip, just make sure that you keep on reinvesting those profits back into your business. So,
and obviously it has to make sense for the lender too, right? Based off the ARV.
And
what they're going to sell it at.
And the unique thing about it is that lenders haven't really caught into the Airbnb space, just because it's more speculative and you don't know, it's not predictable, right? It's not predictable. I could have 10 days of vacancy. So they're gonna, if I were to have brought and used lending, let's say I didn't have the funds, if I were to have brought a lender into this and saying, I need money for this, they're gonna ask me for how much it's currently rented. If it's not currently rented, they're gonna figure out a way to get market value on the rent, some rent analysis on this, right? If I was into the rental space, if I'm going into the flipping space, obviously they're going to want what's called ARV. ARV stands for after repair value. So my numbers for a newbie have to still work from the rental space, the traditional 1-year lease space, in the eyes of the lender, right? The numbers have to still be decent enough in the eyes of the lender, but on my end, I'm gonna watch that. Like, I just need, if I'm a newbie, I'm gonna get qualified. Like if I was getting qualified in this investment rental space, as if I was doing a 1-year lease. But once I'm qualified, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna then go ahead and turn it into an Airbnb. But guys, if you guys are don't have a bona fide system when it comes to an Airbnb, you're already seeing it now how you're helping me. Stay away from it, because you're going to have more stress factors. You're going to have to go cleaning. You're going to have to do supplies and whatnot. And it's a system. You're running it as almost as if it's a hotel. And if you have several of them, you have several different little mini hotels. It's not for the faint of heart. That's why you hire a real estate company who knows that space very well. You guys love to travel. You guys are very good at the Airbnb space. You guys know the investment market. So that's kind of the perspective that I would get. If you're going to go with lending, make sure you have at least a minimum of 20 to 25% down. Hire the right contractors too. We had some mess ups, even though this is my 100 and something
Timing is everything,
time doing
man.
this, right?
Yeah.
What are we struggling here?
I guess first the major one was stucco and roof.
No.
I mean, we came by once and part of the stucco was falling off in the back. So
Yeah, and the difficult part for all of us is my two studs here. They're active agents. They're producing agents. They have their own families. They have their own lives. So for them to jump into a space and project manage and lead this was also time consuming, right?
Yeah.
So if you're doing this, guys, and you're thinking you're just gonna do it just because, like, oh, I'm gonna get into the flipping game, it requires what?
it requires time. I mean,
Energy.
knowing the right people, making sure you're micromanaging, and then have a micromanager on top of your micromanaging,
Yeah.
just to make sure everything's going well. And it's still, I mean, there's still some hiccups along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been doing this so long, and the difficulties that I still find today sometimes is finding excellent contractors that will still give you great pricing, but will be on time. Everyone wants to get paid. When it's time, when they finish their first phase, like we call them phase outs, right?
Yeah.
Whenever they finish their first phase, they were all at my office, right? They were bugging you guys for checks for me, right?
Yeah.
Where's my check? Rick needs to pay me. Rick needs to pay me. But then whenever we go see their product on their second or third phase, their product looks like crap. So you have to have the guts to say, I'm not paying you crap. You finish this job right. And each time, this is why I was not as stressed, because I didn't owe any money on this. But imagine if you had holding costs of a loan and debt service, you guys would have seen me tenfold. You guys would have seen me, where are we at, where are we at, where are we at? And that's why for your clients, maybe that you have clients that want to do a loan, but if they have full-time jobs and they think they're just going to go once a week,
Especially high interest rate.
yeah, it's not going to work out.
Yeah.
Not going to work out. Thank you guys for joining us, guys. This is a clear perspective as to what I went through on this particular investment property, how my struggles and whatnot, their struggles, the reason why I was able to make a lot of what I would say unique mistakes is because I knew on the front end that I had purchased so well. I had purchased at such a good price that I just had to make it look really, really nice. And that's my other perspective, that if you don't make your product look nice, you're not going to stay in this space very long. You have to put a stamp on it. All of my investment properties, they're color coded with that green door. It's a really awesome thing. So follow the green door. That's when you know it's one of our investment properties. And if you're looking at jumping into the real estate investment space, especially the rental space, which is my bread and butter, guys, give my guys a call. They know how to maximize your rent value exponentially, and do it in a way where they'll be real with you and analyze and understand your numbers. So thank you guys for joining, man. Thank you, Marty. Thank you, Isaac. We'll see you at the next episode. Make sure you share and like and hit the subscribe button. Thank you guys very much.
See you at the top.
Yeah.